Can you hear me, everyone? I'm
Yes,
back.
yes, ma'am. Yes. Welcome back, ma'am. And then I think many of them are curious to know answer further questions. Yes.
Okay, Dr. Suresh, before I start answering the questions, how much time are you giving me for question answers?
I think based on your willingness, we are having 40 minutes for this.
40 minutes of question answers. Okay, attack. Now you guys can attack me.
Yeah, Cecilia, 1 second.
Yes.
There are people who would be, who will have, so many questions.
Huh,
So people can also mail it. They can.
perfect.
We have given the mail ID to them. They will be seeing. So whatever you are able to answer here, it's fine. So rest they will send the mail. Okay.
Perfect. No
That
problem.
that we will share it with you. Then from there we will take it on. Thank you
Right.
so very much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. So I lost the previous chat. So I know there were questions there, but I kind of missed that. So if you, those of you who asked me questions in the previous chat box, can you ask me questions in this chat box also, so then I will know. Right now I have just one question, which is from Yelnas. Hi Yelnas. How to draw a line between communication and over communication? Good question. The answer to most of the questions which I think will come out of this presentation is that first step is know yourself. Second step is, if you don't know what the other person is feeling, ask. Like, we normally have this that women love to talk and talk and talk, and the guys, for them 2 lines is fine. They're like, okay, that's it, I understand, I don't want more explanation. So just ask the guy or the other person, whoever it is this okay? Have you got it? There are some problems, some conflicts which are so massive that it needs a lot of resolution. Say, for example, a couple which is going through a very difficult marriage, or a work project where you need to, where, there are two people working together and both of them just don't agree at all. They disagree theoretically, conceptually on the project. So there's a lot of back and forth that will go on over there. But if the discussions are very, very personal and repetitive, then you know that it is over communication. If you have to repeat yourself a few times, then you know that the person is unwilling to accept your discussion. So the point is for you to recognize whether the person is even willing to accept. If the person is not willing to accept, you repeating it 10 times will not help. And that is over communication. And that is the difference between communication and over communication. If you're talking to a normal healthy adult, a couple of times of explanation, and you can decide whether you agree to disagree or whether you agree. But if you have to keep on explaining because you're trying to change the other person's mind, then there's a little bit of problem over there. Second question from Sweta. Practical and practicable. Can that be explained in a little detailed manner? Not too much of detail, but one thing. Think of it as something that you experience, and the experience cannot always be repeated. That's practical. And practicable, you look at that as something that is feasible, and that if you could experience it all the time, it would be great. Like for me, this lockdown is fantastic. It's, if I would get a 2 month 3 month break every time out of 12 months, if I can get a 3 month break every year, it would be perfect for me. I would get so much more done. I would be at my peak productively. And I can make it feasible if I plan my holidays, do a lot of adjustments, put a lot of other people at an inconvenience. I might still be able to do that. But then I have to ask myself, can I actually be doing this and putting so many people into inconvenience? The practical aspect of being in this lockdown for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, however long, is it's great. I love it. But if you make me do this for 12 months, it's not happening. Okay, so point I'm trying to make with monogamy is that in a particular social situation, which was say about even 30 years ago, it made sense. Today, when you have all kinds of people working together for 10, 12 hours a day, when most of your waking hours are with someone else other than your spouse. And as someone said, I'm sorry, I don't know who said this, when your wavelength is matched with somebody else a lot more equitably than it is matched with your partner at home, how long will that wavelength match, the closeness because of that, how long will it stay only a wavelength match? It will move to the next level. It will move on to intimacy. And If you fail to even acknowledge that there is that attraction, then you will be doing yourself a great disservice. Denying what you actually feel creates a lot of complications within your system. Those of you who are aware of the concept of somatic experiencing, knowing how the emotions are manifested through your body, you know this. Even if it is a good emotion, whatever the emotion is, if you're suppressing it all the time, it doesn't work out well for the body. What else? The virtual world is killing today's relationships. Plus, they have become very intolerant due to already. So, for the virtual world, I know that Dr. Suresh has got another talk on it. So, I think I will leave it to the expert then. Very close relationships are harmful or good. Please understand, when it comes to human behavior, there is nothing which is very good or very bad. You know, that little thing I put of love or hate. I'm saying that it's a continuum. Nothing is very good, nothing is very bad. Even when I spoke about attachment style, secure, avoidant attachment style, and the anxious attachment style. These are 3 terms which every BA psychology student also knows. It doesn't mean that you belong to only one category. All of us fall in all 3 categories, but the extent, the range is different for different people. To just modify that question a little, I always feel that, or also what I try to create in my therapy sessions, is the relationship with yourself is the best relationship that you can have. The closest relationship, whether it is your spouse, parent, child, whatever, the closest relationship has to be the relationship with yourself. In other words, you can also say the relationship with God. But for those of you who don't want to get God into the picture, talk about your relationship with yourself. Reliance on yourself will give you the strength to handle every other inconvenience. How to make perfect understanding with subordinates. Ma'am, I don't know whether it's ma'am or sir because it is Galaxy M30. Hope for it, don't expect it. Be okay with the relationship being not okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have problems. It's okay to fight. It's okay to feel sad. Your brain has certain chemicals, right? Those chemicals are all going to be used. And in those chemicals, all your emotions come up, the positive as well as the negative ones. So don't be afraid of the emotions. Allow them to happen. Just don't let them rule you. But it's got a background thing starting on.
I have a question.
I know, ma'am, somebody is wanting to ask me a question, but I've got somebody's background voice on. Somebody else is talking.
Yes.
So whoever else is talking, please mute your mic, please, if you don't mind.
1 second. Vendran, please don't unmute. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. My question is regarding communication and over communication. You said we should communicate, but we should not over communicate. So if we don't communicate properly and there are certain conflicts which are not being resolved, how you suggest we can create harmony in relationships?
That is exactly what I'm talking about. We assume that resolving every conflict is the only thing which can lead to harmony. Is it okay that you don't like me and I still want to come and have coffee with you? Is it okay? You can either tell me that, no, Cecilia, listen, I'm really not up to having coffee. Let's wait for a time when I can comfortably have coffee with you, and let's do that. We talk about harmony, we talk about peace, and we talk about all these things so much, we forget that disharmony is also part of your life. We are so aiming for perfection and good things. I don't know how many of you have watched this. I tell all my students to watch this. There's this movie called Inside Out. Yeah. It's an animated movie. It's for children. It's a beautiful movie which tells you how sometimes sadness protects you. Sadness is negative, no? How does you? So it's a very nice, very children's movie, but very nicely done. So don't be afraid of disharmony. Be afraid of the disrespect that you will cause the other person in the hopes of creating harmony. So think about it. What is most important? Maintaining the love in the relationship, maintaining the respect in the relationship, maintaining the kindness. And like I said, I don't understand love. Conceptually, I have no understanding of it. Somebody has asked about the concept of unconditional love. In today's reality, everything comes with an expectation or a price. Very true, Srinidhi. Everything comes with an expectation. So if you are expecting something from the other person is expecting something from you. Figure out the person where you can function with your own expectations. Don't be there to fulfill somebody else's expectation.
Yeah, true, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a question, ma'am.
Yes.
Can I go ahead, sir?
Yes, Madhuri ma'am, I can see you.
If they are upset and we are upset, if they are not happy, we are not happy. Why we are so, interpersonally we are connected, but those emotions also in such a way that if somebody is not happy in the family, we are, as a person, I am also not happy. So it is only,
yeah. So this is where I was talking about that slide of personal awareness. Also,
self-love.
Self-love. But the most important thing is we have not taught our kids this. We are never taught this in school. We are taught respect your elders, be nice to animals, look after nature. What about you yourself? We have been taught if you are thinking about yourself too much, it is selfish. Yes. I have a problem with that. We have been taught be selfless. But think of the word selfless means yourself becomes less. If you are empty, how will you fill another person? Right? So what we could start off with by getting to know ourselves better. Loving yourself will come later, but at least know yourself, know what you are. Be open to understanding the good and the bad in you. I read a beautiful quote somewhere which says that when you're a child, whatever is downloaded into you, you have to take. You have no freedom, right? But once you're an adult, you have the freedom to upgrade. When you buy a phone, you can upgrade to a new phone, right?
Yeah, so upgradation, upgradation is already, already we are doing, but
in progress,
certain things are so conditioned in a core way where this upgradation also will not work sometimes.
So they take a harder route, go for a retreat, disappear from your family for about 1 week. I have this program called Sthir, which I run for. I'm doing, thank you, Suresh sir. I'm also doing a lot of marketing for myself.
You let me know like that if anything
I
is
posted
there.
on Facebook. Follow me.
If I'm absconding for 1 week, that would be a great thing for myself also.
And you should. All of us should go absconding. That's why I'm grateful for this lockdown. I understand all the debts and the economic hardships it is causing. But it had to take a 50-gram microbe to make us sit quietly, and we are not able to sit quietly. We've started 100 webinars and seminars. Nothing wrong with that because this is upgrading process. But then one simple trick I'll tell everyone: every day sit quietly and take 10 deep breaths. Inhale, exhale. I'm not giving it any fancy name. Inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2. Do it only 10 times. 10 times in the morning, 10 times at night. Keep doing this for as many months as you can, and over a period of time you will find that your inhales become longer, your exhales become longer. So keep inhaling and exhaling longer and longer, and if you feel like sitting for more than 10 breaths, perfectly fine. But to start off with just this, if you can't
this I've been doing since 8 years.
And if you're still not happy, then there is something wrong with the methodology.
What I meant to say, this was not exactly my understanding of this thing. I had few people who have been sharing with me, and some of my clients, so for their understanding also. But this meditation was not working for them.
No, so there are cases in which this is contraindicated, which is why I don't call it meditation. I call it only deep breathing.
Okay,
and there is a way to do it. So I'm saying start off with this now, and take some help. If you feel, all of us, when we are stuck at a roadblock, if you're come to a problem, you take somebody's help to get a solution, right? Why are we trying to solve our problems all on our own? Why are we trying to be, superheroes? Take help. So many professionals available.
Next question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next question, Mala Saluja.
Mala, hi.
Sir, I have asked harmony relations, which ma'am answered.
So Srinidhi has a question. This is the concept of unconditional love, but in today's reality that we finished. What are the other similarity between physics and psychology? What I'll do is I'll post the link for a research paper. It's a wonderful paper. Read it, and that will help you get it.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes. Veena. Yes. Hi.
Ma'am, that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you. Can you enlighten about gaslighting in relationship?
What would you like to know about it? Definitely you know what it is. What is it that you would like to know about?
Like because nowadays it's easier to blame the others is instead of introspecting like what we are. It's always easier to blame others, making them feel guilty about their no that you are wrong every time. This doesn't happen only in the early stages of marriage. It keeps on like it keeps on like going like a perennial river, throughout the marital life. So how to overcome this gaslighting problem?
Number one, if you are in a relationship like this, which is having this kind of a toxic abuse, get out of it and get out of it fast. Even if you're married, take some space, move out of that space. Sometimes just creating physical distance works wonders for the relationship. If you allow somebody to abuse you, now in my definition, abuse is any situation where you are made to feel bad about yourself. Even if you've made a mistake, the mistake can be pointed out, and that one cartoon, if somebody makes a mistake, say, I didn't like what you did, next time be careful, fine. But if you're made to feel bad about it, that for me is abuse. And if you look at all our relationships, most of them subject us to abuse. So what could you do? Number one, assert yourself. Don't be passive aggressive. Don't be that person who goes with a quiet face and sulks and goes out of the room, bangs the door, bangs the pans in the kitchen. Face it, say what you're doing is not right. I do not appreciate it. Sometimes what is also happening in our culture, we have this traditional system of behaving, and because everybody is doing it, we think it's fine. But it's okay, I just said this, why did you have to make such a big deal about it? And you have parents who will do this most often. I just said it, why do you have to make such a big deal? I just said that you're an idiot. That doesn't mean you're an idiot. But why do you say it then? So this entire concept of where you are made to question yourself and doubt yourself, if there is any person in your life who's doing that to you, place it before them and say, I don't think this is healthy, it's not working. Maybe it's okay for you, but it's not okay for me. So what do we do? If the other person insists on doing this, number one, build up your armor and take the help of a therapist, take the help of a friend, take somebody's help and find the strength to deal with it, as in face the onslaught. Second, ask yourself, is this a situation I want to be in? I'm not a big fan when a lot of people, when I started doing marital therapy, initially I was one of those people, see, I'm a Catholic, so we're always told in the church, divorce is not very common. You don't look at it very easily. So it took me a great deal of thinking, a great deal of introspection to when I had to handle marital clients where I knew that divorce, where I felt that divorce was the only solution to the mess. So sometimes you will have to take tough decisions, and a large part of it comes to what people will say and finance. And that is where you have to take somebody's help to figure out where your strengths are. Do I have the courage to deal with my own weaknesses? Do I have the courage to deal with the challenges that will come my way? And do I have the willingness to command respect? I may not demand it, but I should have the willingness to expect that treat me with respect. And this very parent-child relationships, in India, the child is the powerless person, so the parent can say anything, and I feel very sad. I don't see why. Just because.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yeah. Who is this, Veena? You want to continue? Yeah.
Not me, ma'am. I don't know. And thank you so much. I brought this topic because your topic was like not only enrichment but also entrapment. Because this is something very silently going in our cultural context where we don't usually come up with such issues.
That is true.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Veena.
I just wanted to add something about loving self. Since you mentioned you were a Catholic, I thought it was appropriate to make a quote that one of the most important commandment is to love your neighbor as you love yourself.
True.
So there is a key that unless we to love ourselves, we are probably going to be incapable of loving others.
That's exactly what I have written in this book. That's exactly what I said.
I'm going to buy that one, definitely.
Yes, anyone else?
Ma'am.
Ma'am, in addition to, you had just mentioned, so I got a doubt there.
Yes, Ekta.
Ma'am, can I continue?
Yes, please.
So, ma'am, you mentioned that sometimes we see a few clients whose last resort is divorce. So, I wanted to have a doubt, like if there is no physical abuse involved, emotional abuse is involved, and we do personally in our hearts feel that, you know, this lady or this man should get divorced because that's the best for them as such. Are we ethically, you know, right to tell them or not tell them? As therapist, I really wanted to ask you one-on-one.
So therapeutically, the first thing in therapy is we never give advice, correct? So we do not show them the path.
Right.
But what we do show them
Yes.
is we show them the paths to loving themselves. We show them what are the options that are available, that there can be relationships or there can be situations where you are treated with respect. We leave the choice to them always.
Yes.
We don't tell them that, listen, what is happening is not right. This is not how things should happen. That's not the language we use.
Yes.
We say that a healthy relationship functions like this. This is how your relationship is functioning. You can make your relationship into a healthy relationship, or you can leave the relationship. That statement, you may say it in your head, but you will not say it to them. And you ask them,
Yes,
how would
yes,
you like
ma'am,
to
exactly.
proceed? Yeah.
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
answered, yeah.
Ma'am, thank you so much for this
You're
session.
welcome.
It felt like a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Any more questions? Little light on selfishness, please. Good and bad of being selfish. So, you know, in every TYBA psychology student who studies abnormal psychology knows that the definition of abnormal or the understanding of the word abnormal is harm to self or the others. Correct? Abnormal. What is abnormal behavior? Anytime you're harming yourself or the others. Anything. I don't too strongly put this thing too much of weight to that, away from normal as a concept. But yes, if you're harming yourself or if you're harming another person, it's abnormal, correct? If you're in a relationship where somebody is harming you, or if you're in a space where you're constantly being attacked and you're allowing that attack to happen to you, are you actually behaving normal? There are some certain conflicting situations, like when kids are growing up and they are, you know, between the ages of 11 and 19, 20, and there's all this conflict because of the generation gap, and kids think that their parents are their worst enemy, and parents are like, what did I do to deserve a child like this? You know, what keeps the relationship, the parent-child relationship going is the knowledge that this is a temporary phase, and the way I conduct myself as a parent today is going to establish the standards of behavior for my child. The child is going to be open to the idea of throwing tantrums because we have created this concept of adolescence and young adulthood, and apparently in developmental psychology the newest thing is that besides young adulthood we are going to have one more stage now before we come to middle adulthood. Why? Because we spent so many years studying before we actually hit the professional work life, right? So when we are creating the space for our children to remain explorers of themselves and the world, then give them that space. Give them that space to question and to grow. And parents who have not had complications with their children growing up, you know, I think this will answer 2 or 3 of the other questions also in the chat box. So there's a very nice story of this young man who goes to a Zen monk and says, tell me how to be wise. And the Zen monk tells him, take this dabba full of salt and put it in a glass of water. And then now take a sip of that water. He says, it's horrible. So he said, yes, now let's go for a walk. The Zen monk takes the young man, takes him for a walk, and takes him to this beautiful lake, huge lake, and tells him, pour that glass of salt water in the lake. The guy pours it and he says, now you drink from the lake. Drinks from the lake again, and he says, how does it taste? He says, it's refreshing, it's sweet. What happened? What you have taught, what the Zen monk is trying to tell the young boy or the young man is that you have to stop being that glass of water. You have to expand yourself so much that no matter what negativity comes into you, you are as vast as the lake or as vast as the ocean, that the negatives destroy you. You are able to assimilate that. Just like you build muscles in the gym physically, building your emotional muscles is something that if we focus on, then a lot of these complications will not arise, because then you're not worried. You're not like, oh, I'm feeling sad, I'm having complications with my child. Fine, my child is angry with me. I can deal with the anger. I don't hate my child. I'm not ignoring my child. I'm feeling hurt because of what my child says, but I'm not going to react insanely. I'm going to take the hurt, stay with it for some time. I will not let it overwhelm me, and I will then allow myself to expand. That is the child's frame of reference. The child will say, okay, this is how my mom handles problems. And you may not realize it now. 20 years down the line, when your child is fighting with their spouse or their business partner or something, they will automatically be doing what you're doing because you've taught them without lecturing them. You've taught them by living them. And that is where we are coming to this entire concept of building yourself up. A relationship will only survive, will thrive if you build yourself up. And the reason I went a little off point also is because of the rest of the talks coming. There's a doubt on personal
next
feelings.
question, Shweta. Shweta is
Yes.
there to ask a question. She had
Shweta,
already indicated.
Shweta is
Ma'am,
Shweta?
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ma'am, I have a very, very little doubt, but you said that the actions of others is not what hurts, but ourselves, what we think is what hurts ourselves. Can you tell me, like, how is it that the action, if suppose person A does something which hurts me, how you tend to say that the action doesn't hurt, but it's me, my mind, who's saying that I am getting hurt?
If I come and punch you in the nose, then my
Yeah.
action has hurt you. All
Yeah.
right. Let me take an extreme example. When a woman is raped in this country,
Yeah.
what hurts her? She's been insulted. She's been. This is an attack on her dignity, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, what hurts her?
Her emotions are destroyed completely because of what has happened to her.
Why?
Because it's not a very good thing that's happened. It's a
Without-
totally different.
Without
See, if
her willingness.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that destroys women who have been raped, and if you work with them, you
She
know
was
this.
violated without permission. She was violated
One of the-
emotionally and physically.
All right. One of the things that hurts them and that hurts them the most is that because they believed they were wrong. They
But
believed
how
that
is that,
they did
ma'am?
exactly my point. Exactly my point. That is where the thought comes in, the culture comes in, that something wrong has been done to me. If you can bring that person to a point where you say that something wrong, something that you didn't want has happened to you, but you are not the one who should be feeling bad. The person who did it is the one who should be feeling bad. Can that narrative be changed?
No.
Think of the pain that is going through this. And I'm sure you, if you're a professional, we meet so many people in the course of therapy. Every second or third female client you meet is someone who says, oh, I was sexually abused or I was molested by an uncle when I was a child. And then I ask them, do you even remember most of it? They say, no, I remember very little. I said, what is making you feel so bad? And I don't mean it out of disrespect. I mean, it's because we've heard that this has happened. It is wrong. It should not have happened to me. Basically, you're saying nothing wrong can happen to me in my life. Or you are saying that some wrong things can happen, some wrong things cannot happen. How do I get to make that distinction? If I meet with an accident and I lose both my legs and I sit and feel bad about it, you will say, but you know, it's not your fault. You can't do anything about it. Get up, move on, and you'll give me a lot of encouraging stories. But when it comes to the narrative of rape, it changes. It's a negative event that has happened. It should not have happened. It is extremely painful. From there, the next step is which is most important. A lot of us get stuck on that. It is extremely painful. My question is, what is your next step going to be? Is it going to be, it is extremely painful, it should not have happened, but it is not my fault that it has happened. Can I now move ahead? Sorry, I'll just continue this.
Yeah.
In these situations, I am not talking about extreme cases like a Nirbhaya. I am not talking about extreme cases like a murder. But on an average, the pain that an average person faces is large, has to treat them a particular way. And like I said earlier, when I was talking about emotions, we think that we have to always feel nice.
Ma'am,
Our
your voice is
aspirations
breaking.
always.
I cannot hear anything.
Is this better now? Our aspirations are always towards wanting to feel better. Our aspirations are not towards expanding ourselves to take that negativity, to take that salt water and say, it's cool. even if nonsense happens to me, I'm vast enough to overwhelm the nonsense. The nonsense will not overwhelm me. I hope I'm somewhere close to Sweta.
Cecilia,
You
there is a question in the chat box. One youngster student is asking, ma'am, does close relationships are good or harmful?
I think I answered that right at the start. Like I said, nothing is harmful or good. It all depends. It's connected to what Shweta is asking. What is good or bad, it ultimately depends on how you take it, right? Like for a lot of people, this lockdown is horrible because they're losing their livelihood. For someone like me, because I'm not losing my livelihood, it's been the greatest, longest period of rest I've had in the past 25 years. I've never had such a time to rest. So I'm feeling fantastic. For those who are financially in distress and for those who have the illness in their family, they are in trouble. They are hurt, they are agitated, they are scared, they are economically challenged. It's a difficult time. Now, whether they feel overwhelmed by that difficult time and let the fear rule their lives, or they decide, okay, this is a challenging time, what can I do to handle it? Because like I said at the start of the lecture, that your problems are your areas for growth. Whenever you're faced with a problem, whenever you're in a challenging situation, that's when you are enriched. Whenever you're in a happy situation, things are just stable. There's no growth. Growth happens where nonsense happens, right? I'm using the word nonsense very lightly, but I'm guessing you understand what I mean. Difficult moments are the ones where we grow, where we evolve, where we come to another level of function. So Shweta and
I have a question. Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, it is easier said than done. When a rape or some kind of incident happens, we'll say that it is not your mistake, so you need not worry. All these things we can try to narrate them. But when it comes to moving forward in life, so many things should fall in place despite having a lot of grit and strength from the victim. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Even if they are having a lot of mental strength to face the situation, once again, somewhere in their life, they want the approval from the others to have a partner for themselves or to have a life for themselves. Then in that event, what is your suggestion?
Get a partner. Have you watched the movie Chapak? It's a true story. Unfortunately, it is an uncommon one. I wish it were more common. This is exactly what I'm saying. Can we change the narrative? We as mental health professionals are the ones who will change the narrative.
Ma'am, changing the narrative in the social context, which is highly deep-rooted and it is having generations of lifespan, is not that easier. Whereas an individual who is a victim, she has to face and she has to somewhere find a solution to her life, because she can be strong, she can progress in her life, she can survive, but ultimately her emotional needs are really to be satisfied only through the family.
Okay.
No matter what. Yeah.
So what is the question?
Then who is going to accept at that time? Whose support she has to take? And changing the narrative, as you have told, is not such an easier thing.
Okay.
So what is the pathway that they can seek actually? Because changing the society is not easier. Being strong, having grit, or being stable is within their hands. But to have a solution for them, what is the pathway that you suggest?
Pathway that I suggest, if I was God, I would have had a simpler pathway, but I will tell you what acts as a direction for me. I am part of a university called SNDT Women's University. It is Asia's first women's university. It's about 160 years old. It started in Pune with one person taking his wife's help to educate 5 young women who were widows and deciding that those 5 girls needed an education. Today, I am part of that university and I'm sitting and giving you this lecture. And You are in a space where you can ask me questions, because that one gentleman about 150 years ago thought that he needs to start. So yes, I'm not denying that it is difficult, but just because something is difficult, should we not consider it? Should we not start working on it? If, when this gentleman started the school for the education for these 5 young widows, when he and his wife used to go in the marketplace, people used to throw stones and cow dung and things at them to insult them and humiliate them. But they did not stop educating those 5 girls. The college that I'm a part of was established in the year 1972. It's a women's college, and we didn't have many students when we started off. We started off with some 15 or 17 students. Today we have arts, commerce, BMS, BAFI, we have MA, MCOM, we have a career development center. It starts with one person's vision. So start with what you can do. If you say it is a problem, it is a problem, it is a problem, then it will be a problem. It is deep-rooted. Today you can sit and you can call yourself Dr. Devika Rane because somebody fought for you some 200 years ago. You fight for somebody today, whoever it is. Then, you don't know, maybe another 50 years from now things will change. And fortunately, times are so fantastic and dynamic now that the youth today are not so stuck up. The youth today are a lot more open-minded. Maybe your generation, my generation, we are stuck up. But the next generation is a lot more open-minded. They are willing to question. There are a lot of women who are asking today, why do I even need to get married? There's someone who's honestly told on the chat today that I may have one need satisfied by my husband, but for a lot of other needs, I may have other people. So change is happening. It's happening small. It's happening slowly maybe. But then there will be that time when in the graph we say there will be a time when suddenly the graph just shoots up. It's like an exponential growth. Till that time, you and I have to work, ma'am. That's all that we can do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all that we'll do. We'll work.
Ma'am, amazing. I think what I can say. There are many points here what I can say, Bharatiya here in Tamil poetry.
Bharatiya.
I think you've done that. Again, I can see this in Sicily Chettiar's.
I'm a Chettiar, sir. Just now on TV, my parents were watching this movie of Vishu. Where there is this young 24-year-old girl who's widowed. And Vishu's daughter gets married into that family, and then he allows, I forgot the name of the movie. My parents were just watching the movie. Amazing. So that Kurachi comes from within. It is there in your Tamil cinema. It is there in your home.
It isn't gender. Mostly they won't speak. And here you have taken the right time, and then many of here, those are in the mental health field, they are having the stigma whether what we are doing is right or wrong. But what you have said here, that will help them to take a decision in future. That's the point I want to highlight. Amazing. And yes. I enjoyed. And again, yesterday I told Radhika ma'am, I love her. Today I'm going to record you. Again, I love you, your speech, and you also. Thank you so much for